In this video, we're going to be talking about the second step, which is to create great content. You hear the phrase, content is the lifeblood of social media, and really nothing is more true than on Instagram. You can do everything technically correct. You can have a great hashtag strategy, use the right content formats, post at the right time of day, share content every day, etc. But at the end of the day, if your content is not good, like if your content isn't interesting to your audience, it doesn't get a reaction out of them, then you won't go anywhere. Okay, so in this video, we're going to be talking about what are the best practices to make your content great. You know, good content is not good enough. It has to be great. And the first, of course, is going to be to focus on engagement. You know, the algorithm rewards engagement, and these are the interactions, as we've already said, that people take after seeing the content: likes, comments, posts, post shares, saves, profile visits, remixes on Reels, story replies, etc. And that engagement is rewarded with additional reach. That's what the algorithm does. And this leads to even more engagement, which, you know, is how things go viral. And when this occurs, you will find that there's a big spike in the number of profile visits and therefore the number of followers that you're able to gain. And it also means that you don't need a paid advertising budget. You can achieve a lot of growth organically when you are creating engagement-focused content. You want to make sure that you maintain a consistent theme. That initial engagement that you get on your post, story, or reel will most likely be from your most loyal followers. And as we learned in the algorithm section, if the engagement rate is high, it will be shown to more people, which leads to even more engagement. Therefore, you want your followers to know what to expect from you. And ideally, they kind of want to be eagerly awaiting your next post, story, or reel. For this reason, you want to make sure your account has a clear and consistent theme. And you want to kind of avoid, you know, sharing random content, sharing something that's kind of outside of that theme. You know, if your account is about surfing, then throwing in a picture of a dog like you have on the right here into the grid in the middle would just seem a little bit random and a little bit strange. And, you know, you got to remember that audiences are quite fickle, and it only takes one bad piece of content for them to go to your profile and unfollow you. If you do have a surfing theme, it's okay to kind of mix it up between these themes. For example, you could have sunsets, waves, surfboards, beaches, etc., all within that kind of broader surfing theme, but you still want to kind of stick to that theme as much as you possibly can and avoid being random. And if you go and look at some of the most successful accounts on Instagram, you will see this, that they have that really, really clear, consistent theme. If you're going to be sharing image posts to the feed, then you need to ensure that you use high quality images. The content game on Instagram is now very, very competitive, and you're competing for space in a very crowded newsfeed. So you want to make sure that you're using stunning professional content. If you're not a professional photographer, then you may want to consider engaging one, or you may want to use stock imagery instead of taking your own content from your smartphone. So whilst the smartphones can take good images, it doesn't necessarily make you a good photographer. Okay, so think about how can you use professionals or use that stock imagery. An example here from King Roberto, who is a professional photographer, shows just the quality of content that now you're seeing on Instagram, the amount of money and time that people are investing into creating this content. And so you've got to lift your game and make sure that you match what's already there. You also want to ensure that you share content that your audience actually values. And this is probably the most common mistake that people make when it comes to sharing content. They think that their Instagram account is like a secondary website or a Facebook page. And all they do is share content about what the business does or what it sells. So pictures of products, promotions, staff, their premises, events that's happening, and then wonder why no one is interested. Some people will care, of course. There will be people that follow your Instagram account who care, but most won't. What your Instagram content should do is it should educate, it should entertain or inspire its audience. This is really the only way you're going to generate a huge following. There's so many ads out there already in Instagram and now on other social media platforms that people are wary of this. They're put off by these kind of blatant attempts to sell products. So you need to think about what your audience values and deliver it to them. And my advice is always to take it up a level. Ask what your customers, what do my customers actually care about? For example, if you're running a hair salon, do people care about what's happening within the hair salon day to day? Maybe a few, but not that many. By taking it up a level and maybe going for a content strategy that's related to hairstyles, for example, you're going to draw in, you're going to capture a much, much larger audience who are interested in following your account. Another way to think about it is whether or not you've bought a magazine about a company's internal news. Probably not. Where we like to think about Instagram Grid is that it is like that. It's sort of like a magazine, and you want to make sure that the majority of the content in that magazine is value adding. It's okay to every now and then, share something that's a little bit promotional, but that's what Stories is for. Stories is much better for sharing promotional type content when it comes to your grids, whether that's your regular profile grid or your Reels or IGTV feeds. You want to make sure that you are sharing and adding as much value as possible. Just remember, it's about them, it's not about you. Another example could be like if you're a fitness instructor, you don't want to just show pictures of you working out with your clients, okay? Some people will care, but not a lot. But if you're sharing content that's about workout tips or diet tips, etc., then this is going to be much better content strategy, and again, draw in more people. There is an exception to this, which is fashion, lifestyle brands, etc., that are using Instagram shopping. These sort of products, when you're sharing a lot of products like this, they still actually add value by showcasing the latest styles and product releases and so forth. Foundr, the one you can see here, is one of my favorite Instagram accounts, and what they do is they're an entrepreneurial magazine, and they share motivational quotes, stats and interviews that inspire their audience, and they add a ton of value as a result, and they've been able to successfully grow their account to about 3 million followers. You also want to carefully manage how your posts, Reels, or IGTV videos look on their respective grids, which are accessible from your profile page. So there used to only be the main grid. However, that has now expanded with the introduction of Reels and also IGTV. They have their own respective grids. But the one you really want to pay close attention to is your main grid. And this is because you can also share to that Reels, as we learned, IGTV videos, and your posts with shopping. Now, most people, when they visit your profile, they are going to look at your last couple of posts, but also look at your grid to assess whether or not to follow your account and potentially click on your single URL that's there. So for this reason, you want to make them as visually appealing as possible. We like to say that you want to design your grids like a magazine, okay? And there's numerous ways that you can go about doing this. You can alternate between two different types of posts, so one post after the other, to create this tile look. Or you can alternate between, 3 different types of posts to create these 3 different columns. You can add borders around it. There's lots of different ways in which you can create really nice looking grids. Just remember though, the focus needs to be on the individual post. Yes, you want to make sure that your grid looks good, but you also want to, of course, make sure that each individual post receives a bunch of engagement as well. This one here on the left, I particularly like. Every third post has a white background with a variety of different text over the top. And then the alternating ones in between use similar colors. So here's black and white, and then you can see down here black and white, or similar sunset colors across these 2 images. So lots of effective ways you can go about doing this. Your Instagram content needs to spark some type of emotional reaction. As I mentioned already, Instagram is quite competitive now, and audiences are very fickle. The decision to stop and look at your post, story or reel, or keep scrolling is sometimes made like in a millisecond. And we want that thumb-stopping content. We want to have some type of emotional reaction so that it really stops them in their tracks and hopefully gets them to engage with your content. Now, these emotional reactions can be positive, such as laughter, happiness, inspiration, motivation, wonder, lust, surprise, and so on. But they could also be negative, such as like fear or anger, And an example I always like to use, I remember when I saw on Instagram a picture by Greenpeace of deforestation, right? It showed a before and after of a lush rainforest and then deforestation. And you know, when you look at that, it made me angry, but then it was combined with a caption which was motivating me to take some type of action. Now, there's many tactics that you can employ to spark an emotional reaction. The first, probably the most obvious, is to be funny. You can share content about trending topics because that tends to, people react to that more when it's about something that's trending at the moment. You can be contentious or controversial. You can share genuine emotional stories. People get very caught up in storytelling. You can use imageries with celebrities, for example, on the right here, one of George Clooney. You can use vibrant colors and image filters. You can use some of those augmented reality filters or stickers and GIFs. You can add text over the top, again with this example here on the right, to reinforce your message. You can make a big announcement. You know, often when the reason why you see when someone gets engaged that it's at the very top of your feed is because of the amount of engagement that it's been getting. So making big announcements can be a great way to spark an emotional reaction. You can run competitions that excite people. Example here on the left is Charity Water. They're a not-for-profit charity. And what they have here is a really nice image, which in and of itself actually sparks an emotional reaction. But it's combined with a caption about how their organization has been able to provide access to millions of people, clean drinking water to millions and millions of people. And the one on the right here, George Clooney, very well known and successful actor. And what they do is billionaire behavior is leveraging his star power. And this is, you know, most likely just a stock image. Combine it with a bit of text over the top. And anyone who admires George Clooney is therefore likely to engage with this particular post. One of the best ways that you can get an emotional reaction out of your audience is to know them really well. Go to your audience personas and understand what it is that they like and they dislike, what are their hopes and dreams, what are their pains and frustrations. And the more that you know your audience and the type of content that they're likely to react to, the more likely it is that you'll be able to get an emotional reaction out of them. When it comes to Instagram content, we want to be thinking about sharing a lot of content. If you look at most influencers and large Instagram accounts, they are sharing and publishing a ton of content. Maybe 5 to 10 posts, reels, or IGTV videos every single day, and usually about 10 to 30 stories. It's a huge volume of content. And what they understand is that the algorithm rewards consistency. And if you are able to share a high volume of content, this will achieve more reach. And this is because the followers are unlikely to actually see more than 1 or 2 pieces of content. And so if each one of the followers only sees it once and you share 10 posts, for example, then you're able to reach maybe 40, 50% of your followers instead of only 4, 5, 6% of your followers if you shared 1 post. Now, if you are sharing 5 to 10 times a day, it's going to be exhausting. It's going to feel like you're on this never-ending treadmill. So the way in which to do this, and this is what the larger accounts are doing, is to use a whole bunch of efficiency tactics to ensure that you are able to share a lot of content. Firstly, leverage pillar content, which we've already kind of explored. How do you take that long form content and chop it up into lots of little bits so that you've got this constant bank of content to pull from? How do you share between placements? Do you share your reels to stories? Do you share your reels to your to the feed? Do you share your IGTV videos to stories, and so on and so forth? So that's one of the best things about all of these different placements that Instagram has, your ability to share between them and therefore increase your presence in each one of those placements. Bulk producing content, so don't think about how do I create 5 to 10 posts today and then wake up and do it again tomorrow, because that's the content treadmill that you'll never get off. But how do you create enough content to last you 3 months at a time or 6 months at a time, and just break that mindset that you have to be posting about what's happening right now? You don't. In fact, there's nothing wrong with posting about content that happened 2 years ago, as long as it's still relevant today. Scheduling posts, there's now Facebook has Creator Studio or Business Suite for some people who are currently being migrated, or there's many third-party apps that you can use, and you can use this to schedule in advance. So schedule all of that content well in advance so you maintain that consistency. So if you do commit to sharing twice a day, then the only way you're going to be able to do that consistently day in, day out is using a scheduling tool. Eventually, you're going to get busy and you're going to miss it, and then you're going to lose that traction with the algorithm. So use the scheduling tools because they're available and they work well. And then finally, curation of content, which we'll be talking about in the next video. Thinking about, instead of creating all of the content yourself, is there content potentially that you can share from other Instagram accounts which can sub in for some of your created content? It's still great content, and you're able to ensure that your volume of content is higher as a result. But the final point on this is you want to be realistic. You want to be realistic about what you and your team can achieve. There's no point setting yourself a goal of sharing 5 reels a day if you have no way of achieving that. You've got to be realistic about the resources that you have available and make sure that you set yourself up for success. Regardless of the volume of content that you commit to, you want to be ensuring that you're posting to Instagram every single day if you are going to be active on the platform. Do you ever notice when you like a post from a brand or an Instagram account that you haven't seen in your feed for quite a long time, and then the next time that you open the app, lo and behold, there's another post from them right up ranking highly in your feed? Or maybe there's an account that you regardless of whenever you open Instagram, it's always there. You're always seeing posts from that particular account. Well, the reason for this is because you've engaged with their last piece of content. This is why we talk about the importance of consistency. What you want to do, and the best way to think about this is kind of this engagement staircase. You want to build up the base of people who engage with your posts all the time, right? And what this ultimately means is that every single time you share any content, regardless of the placement, whether it goes to the feed or to stories or to reels, that you always have a good starting base of people who engage with that content. And that's because they're constantly seeing your content and constantly engaging with it. If you can't work out how to post content every day, you're going to struggle. You're not going to get anywhere near the benefit that the algorithm provides when you are sharing content every single day. Your results will be so much better. This is, again, because people who engage with your previous posts are more likely to see your content that you're sharing right now. And again, going back to it, how do we do this? We want to bulk produce our content and use scheduling software. Stories have a huge array of features to make them more interesting, fun, and engaging. And unlike posts, reels, or IGTV videos, which remain on your profile, stories disappear after 24 hours. And the name for this is ephemeral content, and just means that it's transitory in nature, it's not permanent. And for this reason, stories content can be more unplanned. It can be playful, it can be in the moment, doesn't need to be perfect. And your approach to creating stories content should be that you knock them out quickly. Okay, you just want to get as much content out there quickly, and again, be more consistent in the creation of the content as a result. Now, with stories, as I've already mentioned, you can be a little bit more promotional in nature. Okay, it is a place, because it's not permanent content, as long as you're adding value, have a good ratio of adding value to being promotional. Because the content isn't permanent, you can tell them about company announcements or new product launches or big wins for your particular business, and use that, particularly once you get over that 10,000 followers, use that to drive traffic through to your web pages. Some of the features that stories have are Create, where you can write something in a variety of different fonts on different colored backgrounds. You've got Boomerang, which are those short 3-second looping GIFs. You've got Layout, which includes the ability to have multiple images on a single screen. Multi-capture, where you capture multiple consecutive photographs. Level, which is that handy feature to make sure your camera is straight. Super Zoom, which is like a creation of short stories that zoom in on a particular subject or object, coupled with pretty amusing filters. You've got Hands Free, which allow you to record a story without having to hold the record button the whole time. And then you've got Effects, a series of kind of funny, engaging effects that can add to your image or video by swiping right and accessing the effects gallery. Once you've created those stories, you can also enhance it with a variety of, pretty fun and playful additions like stickers, GIFs, handwritten doodles, augmented reality filters, which are a lot of fun. You see that on the right-hand side here, and much, much more. And the whole purpose, again, of this is you want to ideally to get people to reply to your stories. If you're getting a lot of story replies, then that's going to send a really, really good signal to the algorithm and increase the ranking of your stories. When it comes to IGTV videos, you can have these as vertical or horizontal. They don't always have to be vertical. And IGTV is a separate app, right? It's a standalone location where people are going to go to access this long-form video content. And actually, the IGTV videos can be up to 60 minutes in length. So what you can do is you can cross-promote with other channels. So it's quite common for people, say, who are using YouTube to actually put their longer form videos onto IGTV or Facebook Watch as a further distribution of the video content that they've created. It is possible to have like pop-ups or on-screen text, as you can see here on the left. And you can also choose a cover photo. So if you want to share it, say, to your profile for it to be there permanently and for people to see it in the feed, then you might want to choose a cover photo so that your grid still looks really nice. Otherwise, Instagram is going to randomly do it for you. You can pre-promote IGTV with stories, which is a pretty cool feature. You can also share IGTV to stories, but it'll only last for 24 hours. Reels are the full screen vertical videos that really should form part of your strategy at the moment. And that's because the organic traction that you're able to get from it is much higher than some of the other Instagram placements. Because Instagram is trying to slow down the growth of TikTok, they're really trying to encourage both their existing Instagram users, but also potentially new Instagram users to use this new type of content format. They're similar to stories, but the difference is that they remain on your Reels grid or on your main grid if you choose to share them there as well. Like TikTok, music does play a big part. It's not essential to add music to it, but many of the most popular Reels are to popular music clips. There's a bunch of features that you can use when you're creating Reels from within the Instagram app. You can choose whether it's a 15 or 30-second Reel. You can choose from a database of songs to accompany your Reel. There's an ability to speed up or slow down your Reels to either, I think it's 0.3 times all the way up to 4 times pace, which is a great little feature to improve the effectiveness and engagement of your Reel. There's a bunch of effects, just like stories, fun and engaging filters and effects to enhance it. There's an ability to touch it up, auto-enhance the content. And then finally, there's a timer that you can use, which provides you either with a 3 or 10-second countdown before you film the Reel. So definitely have a look at this as a content format and consider it as part of your Instagram strategy.